Hi, my name is Daniel Hodges. I'm an engineer here at Cessna. I'll be discussing the new bleed procedures for the Cessna Citations 560, serials 1 through 538. These new bleed procedures will be incorporated in revision 25 of the maintenance manual. In the new bleed procedures, you will have to bleed the left as well as the right. You can never just bleed the left or just bleed the right. This ensures that there's a more thorough bleed. Also, the new bleed procedures incorporate a 6587001-3 bleed fixture. This -3 bleed fixture is different from the -2 that incorporates a check valve as well as a bent tube to go back into the reservoir. If you already have a -2, you can just add the check valve and add the bent hook to go back into the reservoir, and you will have a -3. Ensure that the accumulator and the reservoir are properly serviced before starting the bleed procedure. A properly serviced reservoir will show fluid in the upper side gauge when the accumulator is in the pre-charge position. This is important to have enough fluid in the system so we do not pump air back into the system. Ensure that the skid control circuit breaker on the pilot's circuit breaker panel is disengaged. Put the DC power bat switch on the pilot's circuit breaker panel to the bat position. Before installing the bleed fixture on the aircraft, engage the parking brake. Engaging the parking brake now ensures that minimal amount of fluid will be lost from the system when installing the bleed fixture onto the aircraft. Before beginning the bleed procedures, enable the control lock or the gust lock. Make sure that most of the force is being applied to deflect the brake pedal and not the rudder pedal. Applying too much force to the rudder pedal could damage the gust lock system. If necessary, you can use your other foot to stabilize the rudder pedals when actuating the opposite brake pedal. Now that we have the bleed fixture on the aircraft, notice how the check valve is located on the brake stack itself. It is important to have the check valve located as close to the brake stack as possible. This ensures a more thorough bleed. Also, notice how the arrow on the check valve points in the direction of the fluid flow. It is important to have the check valve installed properly on the aircraft. Make sure that the bleed fixture is full of clean hydraulic fluid. Also notice how the hook feature is located securely into the reservoir. After the bleed fixture is correctly attached to the aircraft, disengage the parking brake. Now that the bleed fixture is installed in the aircraft, we have to determine where to start the bleeding procedure from. If there has been any component removal replacement from the manual side of the braking system, such as a master cylinder, an anti-skid valve, or any cockpit plumbing or fitting, or if the hydraulic fluid has been purged from the system, it is important to start with priming the co-pilot's master cylinders. If no manual braking system component has been changed or removed, or if hydraulic fluid has not been purged from the system, it is okay to start with bleeding the left or bleeding the right brake system. If there are any uncertainties of where to start with, always start with priming the co-pilot's master cylinders. You must always use the co-pilot's brake pedals to accomplish the brake bleed procedure. The next step is priming the master cylinders. Priming the master cylinders involves 100 pumps of the brake pedals within approximately 30 seconds. You can use your chronometer over here to check for time. Within about 70 pumps, you should start to feel brake fluid traveling through the system and beginning to get primed. When priming the master cylinders, each stroke should be through the full motion of the brake pedal. Here I am illustrating the proper rhythm for priming the master cylinders. After the master cylinder is properly primed, now we can go through the bleed process. The bleed process is 150 cycles in approximately 120 seconds. You can use your chronometer over here to judge for time. Just like priming the master cylinders, the full travel of the brake pedal needs to go all the way down and all the way up through the full travel of the brake. When accomplishing the manual brake system bleed, push the co-pilot's brake pedal steadily through the full brake travel and release. The movement of the brake pedal should be steady and continuous. Here I am illustrating the proper rhythm for bleeding the manual side of the brake system. On the 150th and final pump, continue to hold down the brake pedal and engage the circuit breaker, the skid control circuit breaker. Engaging the skid control circuit breaker allows the pump to turn on and the accumulator charge up. This takes approximately 10 seconds, and after about 10 seconds, release the brake pedal. Now that we've accomplished the manual side bleeding, we have to accomplish the power side bleeding. Power side bleeding is holding the brake pedal down for 4 minutes and making sure that the pump is continuously running throughout that 4 minutes. Okay, now that the power bleed has been accomplished, go ahead and disengage the skid control circuit breaker, as well as engage the parking brake. Engaging the parking brake now ensures that minimal fluid will be lost when removing the bleed fixture. Use the bleed valve found near the brake reservoir to release the brake accumulator fluid pressure. Remove the brake bleed fixture from the brake assembly and attach the fixture to the opposite brake assembly. Do the entire brake bleed procedure for the opposite brake system. When the left and right brake systems are bled, do the anti-skid brake system check. First, do a check to make sure that the pilot's and co-pilot's left and right pedals are firm and that they travel equal distances. If the brake pedals are not firm or do not travel the same distance for either the pilot or the co-pilot side, do the bleed procedure again.